the 4 most scalable, most profitable business models that you should take, right, for your business. Okay, so you are picking a business model for yourself and you are deciding to do the one which has the least risk but the most upside as well. Okay, all of these are also in booming industries. Okay, booming industries where it's growing. So don't worry about them. I've already qualified them for you. Okay, so these are the 4 ones, and the 2 characteristics it needs is it scalable and is it profitable. Okay, so scalable means that for every additional customer that you bring in, for example, right, does it get easier and easier to actually run the business? Okay, that is what I mean by scalable. Okay, so let us get started. Okay, so I'm going to show you the pros and cons of each business model as well. I'm also going to show you technically my favorite. Okay, so the first one, obviously, it's e-commerce. Okay, so e-commerce is very, very scalable. You can sell to anybody in the world as long as they have an internet connection and as long as your product can basically go to that person, right? So that's what I mean by scale. Okay, the second pro is that if you are actually good at creating physical products, okay, if you know how to, improve and create physical products that are actually unique in nature, right, you actually can make a lot of money in e-commerce. The reason why is because most people are not very, very strong at product and marketing, and that is why they're unable to get to market efficiently or profitably. Okay, however, if you're actually good at creating unique products in the marketplace, actually you do very, very well. Okay, so that is basically this point right here. Okay, the third pro is that e-commerce can be very profitable. Okay, it can be profitable if you have a high customer return rate. Okay, what I mean by this is that, for example, if a customer comes to you and they buy from you for the first time, if they spend, for example, $60 with you, and after 3 weeks, after 2 months, for example, they come back and spend $100 with you, right? So the total lifetime value of the customer is actually $160, for example. And for example, you spend $24 on ads to acquire the customer, and you get back $160. Okay, can you see how this is profitable? And this is only possible if people buy from you over and over again. If they don't do that right, then it's not going to be profitable. Okay, so just letting you know, there's some caveat to that situation right there. Okay, what are the cons of e-commerce? Okay, the cons of e-commerce is that you need to deal with supply chain, cash flow, inventory, and shipping times. Okay, and most of the time these things are out of your control, which means that, for example, if you are shipping from China, you can't really control the factory in China. They don't care about you, right? You're a very, very small customer, for example, right? And so you cannot control that. Okay, so when you need to buy inventory, you need cash flow to buy upfront as well. And so shipping times, if you know anything about supply chain in our world, it's very, very difficult these days, purely because the container ports are very, very clogged up and stuff like that. Okay, so that is a con because it's technically not in your control. Okay, that's the first one, right? Supply chain. Okay, the second one is inflation and cost of goods sold. So inflation is when your raw materials to create your actual products actually increase over time, right? So it gets more expensive to actually produce your products. And so because you cannot increase your prices as well, you don't have pricing power. So when your cost of goods sold increases, it cuts into your profit margin. Okay, so that is the problem with e-commerce. Okay, this one. Okay, so you can assess yourself whether you want to go into e-commerce. Let's move to the next profitable business model. Okay, so the next model is SaaS. Okay, so SaaS is software as a service. It's software. Okay, it's very, very scalable purely because every new additional customer that you bring on is very, very easy to fulfill for the customer. Okay, so as you scale, obviously it gets easier and easier over time because customers generally have the same problems. So you can, once you get the first customer, it's usually very hard because you need to fix their problem. They probably have a different technical problem, etc., etc. But if you have more and more customers, usually they all have the same problems. And so your support team gets easier and easier, and then you build new product features as well. Okay, that's number one. Number two, it is profitable, right? Since all customers are repeat buyers. Okay, so usually SaaS or software is a recurring revenue model, which means that month to month, people are going to pay you over and over again. Okay, so this is what it means by, okay, month one, for example, they pay you $39. Month number two, they pay you $39, and it goes on and on, right? Every single month, you don't have to be worried about where the money is going to come from, purely because, as you can see here, they're going to buy from you over and over again. And the reason why they continue buying from you is because they need to use the software. Okay, simple as that. Okay, the next good thing about SaaS and why a lot of the smart people and the people who have tons of money are in it is because of the gross margin. The gross margin is extremely high. Okay, so for every single customer, for example, if they charge you, for example, $500 to use the software every single month, okay, it probably only takes them like, I don't know, $30, maybe $100 to actually service the customer. Okay, this could be very much less. This could be like $10. So for example, on a gross margin basis, the company is making, for example, $490 off that customer. Okay, so in terms of the amount of value that you can charge is, it can be high, it can be low, whatever it is, but the cost to fulfill that customer is very, very low. Okay, and so high gross margin businesses are the ones that generally survive even in a recession, purely because they have pricing power, right? They have high gross margins. Okay, so that is the pros of software. The cons of software is that it's much slower to get customers. Okay, people underestimate how difficult it is to get a software sale. Okay, so a software sale is basically you're trying to convince someone to pay you over and over again, right? It's like asking someone to pay for Netflix. It's quite difficult, honestly, right? And so you need to show them the value of why this is useful. Why should they be paying for this software over and over again? Okay, that is the con number one. Okay, even though it's slow to start, as it scales, it gets easier. Okay, so basically anything in life is like that. So not to worry. Okay, the second thing is that you need to worry about churn. Okay, churn is basically, imagine you have a cohort of 100 customers, okay? And so, for example, in month 2, right, five people left. Okay, so 5 customers left. Okay, so you have a 5% churn. Okay, churn is important because you are on a recurring revenue model. So if a lot of people are starting to leave the software, it means the software is actually not as good as you proclaim it to be. And people are not seeing value in paying you over and over again. Okay, so churn is another one. Okay, the other problem with SaaS is that it's a low AOV. So an AOV is average order value. And so because it's a low AOV, it's very, very difficult for someone who is working full-time, for example, to go into SaaS and to create a full-time income. Okay, imagine if you sell software for like $29 or $49 or like $99. Okay, you probably need a ton of customers for you to make a full-time living. Okay, and that is why software is a very difficult game and not many people are in software. Okay, the last one, the con of SaaS, I won't say it's a con, but it's just difficult to enter. Like you actually need developer skills. Okay, if you cannot code, you basically cannot be in the game. you basically can't build software. Okay, so that's why it's just difficult. Okay, so that's basically SaaS in a nutshell. Okay, the next one I'm going to be talking about is affiliate marketing. So affiliate marketing, once again, is very, very scalable. Purely because if you run ads, you can make money very fast. Okay, so you can scale up very, very fast. Purely because if you run ads today, in 4 days' time, you can bring money in immediately. Okay, you don't have to buy any product. You don't have to create a software. Okay, you can basically start promoting other people's products immediately, right? So you don't have to worry about that part of it. Okay, that's the scale. Okay, the problems with affiliate marketing is that you don't own the product. Okay, because you don't own the product, okay, you cannot set the prices. Okay, so what does that mean? If you can't set the price, you technically cannot determine your income. Does that make sense? Okay, because the company that is paying you determines the prices. And so, for example, in some situations, right, when you're an affiliate marketer, sometimes companies reduce their commission. So, for example, on a $100 product, they are used to paying you 20%. So you get $20, right? For example, if they decrease that to 10% overnight, just because they feel like it, you're suddenly making, 50% of your income. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the problem with affiliate marketing. And it's kind of risky in a sense, right? And so that is why that is the last con of there's not much moat around it. Okay, can you see this? Okay. So lastly, the most scalable, profitable model, this one, is online courses. So I just be frank with you, this is my favorite. Okay, and also I teach people how to do this. Okay, so this is my favorite purely because it's scalable once again. So it's kind of similar to software where it's very, very scalable. So every single new customer that you bring in, it's not like there's additional, it gets easier over time. Okay, it's also a very high gross margins of business. So for example, if you were charging, for example, $1,000, right? The cost to fulfill is almost, less than 100 maybe. Okay, sometimes obviously you can go to 200, sometimes you can go to 300, depending on your model. But in general, it's a high gross margin business. Okay. The other thing that I like about it as well is that if you have more testimonials, it generally gets easier. Okay. So let me explain to you why. Because in online courses, generally, you're building a reputation based on a specific topic. So for example, if I help people with online courses, right? If I help people start and build their own online courses, the more customers I get, the more people are going to be, talk about online courses, going to be know me as, oh, that's the guy who helps people build online courses and scalable income, etc., etc. Right? So it actually benefits me as long as I continue staying in the game. Does that make sense? Okay, the more customers I have, it's going to be easier. Okay, the cons with online courses, this one is personal brand. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Okay, generally, online courses, you are going to be is not you cannot exit the company. You cannot sell the company. So if you're building an online course based on a personal brand, so for example, based on your name, right? You cannot exit this company. Okay. So what is exiting a company like? Why is this a good thing? For example, okay, I'll give you the perspective. For example, like in e-commerce. So in e-commerce, for example, if you get to $100,000 per month, for example, and you make 30K per month, okay, so 30 times 12. Sorry, I can't do math. Imagine this is 300K. Okay, so imagine you make 300K net profit with this business. Okay, so every single year you basically take home 300K in net profit. Okay, a company or an acquirer, a private equity firm or whatever can come in here and tell you, okay, we're gonna pay a 3 times multiple on this business. So we're gonna give you $1 million or 900K. We're gonna pay you 900K to sell your company. Okay, in an online course business, if the company is tied to a personal brand, for example, you cannot do that. You cannot sell the company. Okay. However, there are workarounds around this. So let me show you an example of a company who does this. So this is Mind Valley. Mind Valley does, I think they said 20 mil a year. So they do 20 mil a year, and they are a real company purely because they are not tied to a single personal brand. As you can see, a lot of their products are based on multiple personalities. So in terms of business risk, it's not dependent on one person alone. Can you see this? It's not dependent on one person alone. Okay, to be fair, it's difficult to build something very massive like this, but I think you can see the situation. Okay, I guess, yeah, and sorry about that. Yeah, and one more thing is that probably this one is that anybody can start a course. Anybody can start. Okay, anybody can start a course and start selling a course. The difference is obviously selling the course and creating the course is a different thing. It's very easy a lot of people create courses, but not many people actually sell them. Okay, so I won't consider this a real con, but it's definitely something to think about as well. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Let me summarize for you. Okay, so once again, scalable is important, right? You don't want to be stuck at a certain point purely because operational drag, and it's very, very difficult to scale. Okay, profitable, obviously, this is self-explanatory. Okay, so first one, e-commerce, right? I definitely recommend you e-commerce if you're good at this. If you're good at physical product, right, you definitely should explore this because not many people are very good at this. Okay, number two, software, once again, is difficult because of the developer skills. But if you have this, potentially explore. Potentially. Okay, it's just difficult to get to a full-time income. Okay, it's going to take quite a bit of time. Okay, number three, affiliate marketing. Okay, this one, it's very easy to start, very easy to scale, etc. The problem is, obviously, you're not building a big moat right here. Okay, and lastly, online courses. You can scale, high gross margin. It's easier as you get over time. Good. The only problem is you probably can't sell the company. Okay, that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them down in the description below. I also like to invite you to click the link down below. Check out GettingPaid.io and join our free email newsletter. We'll tell you more about how to build scalable income and stuff like that. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Ken, thanks so much. Talk to you soon. See you in the next video.